Hello all of you. With your prelims result being positive, I hope all of you have been there on your war footing now because countdown has actually begun. I'm here to give you the perspective of the upcoming test series program wherein, as I have always maintained, geography optional do not have a static frame of answer writing. You need to always remind yourself that you cannot go with a frame, a solid frame, a watertight compartment in your answer writing. Every question demands a different formatting of the answer. So the key thing that you have to always inculcate and remind yourself when you are attempting the answer writing practice test series program that we are beginning from 3rd of July. Flexibility is important because every question demands a different frame of answer, and integration because I might require to integrate randomly other topic of my syllabus to create out a logical answer. To prove this point, I'll try to continue with some sample questions to create a very clear overview that how and what this test series is going to help you out with. So without wasting any time, I'm quickly getting onto my whiteboard. So the question that we have selected, many frontiers within states create unstable political environment, comment. If this is the question, how to approach the answer? The first point, you can call it introduction. I should define frontier. We all know that frontier, whether called as buffer zone, frontier which is referred as no man's land, transitional zone, have lost its legitimate status politically. However, it continues to be valid in socio-economic, cultural, economic, and several other indicators. I mean, I don't have frontiers living in terms of a political entity, but it is certainly there in every other parameter as a buffer zone or as a transitional zone. Once you are done with this, then you should take into consideration instability that can be generated by frontier should be related to what? So, the unstable condition or unrest geopolitically is of three types. They are not the watertight compartment, but still they have got a very sound distinction. So you can add that as your answer. Persuasive, resistance, and revolutionary are the types of unrest identified geopolitically. Quickly define them. Attempt to change attitude of power holders to contain the power or authority of power holders. And it is sudden sweeping change in political, economic, environment or setup. Now with the second point, you have convinced the examiner that you have a clear perspective about frontier and unrest or instability that can be correlated with frontiers. Then your answer should proceed to take into reference that any of these three, unrest or instability, can create two types of frontiers, and you must define them. One is called divisive and two is called non-divisive. Divisive, which somewhere challenges integration of a given state. Non-divisive, which is creating time-specific kind of challenge that can be controlled or that can be changed in due course of time. That is how you create out your answer. And then the two types of frontiers which are created. So I create point number 4, can involve. So both of these can involve divisive, non-divisive. Both of these can involve political, economic, and social dimensions with different degree of unstable condition and different types of action. And this is where you can create a very easy and very commonly talked about graphical diagram. I have already mentioned type of action and degree of unrest or unstable condition, right? So communication of dissatisfaction, organization, mobilization with actions of political violence tends to create vicious spiral. However, the possible de-escalation can convert it into virtuous Are you making sense that if in place of creating the point after point information, I try to create this type of a defined diagram, I'm convincing examiner of the diversity or dimension that I can justify with my answer. So this diagram helps me to make examiner understand that the unrest created by the socio-economic, political, cultural frontier is capable of creating both virtuous and vicious cycle. And if it becomes vicious, it surely is going to generate higher level of instability. Once this is done, the frontiers involving constructive requirements of conflict resolution should be your way forward. And when I talk about that, understanding perspectives, flexibility, empathy, respect, and compassion. Understanding the perspective of each and every community stakeholder, flexibility in the approach of response. So it should be the approach of response that we can talk about. Approach of response. And when I talk about empathy, respect, and compassion, it basically is only about justifying inclusion. Inclusion and acknowledgement that diversity is the name of the game. Every individual, every region, every community incorporate different perspective to different thing, are suffering from different dimensions of the challenges in their day-to-day living. And if that is being given a compassion, empathy, perspective, acknowledgement, automatically that frontier will be the solid support for the overall growth of a political unit rather than the challenge. I hope that this question that can easily be derived from two heads of our syllabus, laws of international boundaries and frontiers written in our models, theories, laws in human geography, and the political aspect that by default is much more enlarged for paper 2. We can easily rope in any of the contemporary case study to prove our point. Answers to such questions requires a very defined interweaving of the information, and the thought process will be very cascading type. It should not be random. It should be disorganized. And if it is done this way, I don't think there is any reason why examiner will not be convinced with my approach of writing and a quality of answer evolving right there for me to be convinced, yes, I have written a good answer. That is it from my side today. Bye-bye. We'll continue with the series.